Hey, thanks for joining me. So, kind of excited today. I got up this morning and looking at my phone at my YouTube channel and some of the statistics, and I realized that this is my 100th video that I've created that'll go online. So when you see this one and it's online, it's my 100th video, which is kind of cool. I've been doing this for just a little over 2 years, which comes pretty close to one a week. I have a couple times over the 2 years taken, like a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks or a month off at one point or another just to kind of get a break from it. But anyway, 100 videos. I am kind of excited about that. The other thing is that just a couple of days ago, I passed the 4,000 subscriber count mark. So just over 4,000 subscribers, which I think is not too bad for, 100 videos and a couple of years worth of doing this. So to all my viewers that have been watching the videos and leaving comments and encouragement and all that, I really just want to say thank you. I've been having a good time doing this, and the support that I've received especially in terms of encouragement and ideas and that sort of thing has been really helpful. So a little bit of story to help understanding. I rarely shoot videos at home. And like right now I got up this morning, it was 15 degrees, that's Fahrenheit, 15 degrees outside. It is supposed to warm up a bit. It's supposed to get close to 50 today, which will be really nice. By Monday, it's supposed to actually hit 70, which will be really nice. So spring's not far away. And soon I won't be in the car as much. Well, I have to get through spring. It rains a lot in the spring in Oklahoma. But before long, I'll be shooting more stuff outside. But the reason I don't shoot many of my videos from home is that to a certain degree, I am my wife's caregiver. And we both work from home. She and I both work full time. And but she's not completely disabled. She has rheumatoid arthritis. And but she needs quite a bit of help. And so this is my time, a day or two, a morning or two a week to get out and just kind of have some time to do some photography and enjoy, do some stuff with the dog. I'll spend a couple hours on a Saturday morning or maybe a Sunday at some point, and just try to get away a little bit. And doing these videos has been to a great degree what I do. So anyway, not complaining or anything about that situation. I'm not too far from retiring, actually, maybe another year and a half-ish or so, and we'll both probably retire. Once I retire, then I look forward to having more time to devote to the videos, and even in between now and then, I want to start looking at how I can improve the scope and the quality of the videos, and so I'm looking at that. So there's hopefully some really fun stuff, some good stuff to come. But I just wanted to say thank you to all the people that have continued to watch my videos. It's greatly appreciated. So this morning, I wanted to talk about my two favorite lenses for Micro Four Thirds. One that's a digital lens, a modern lens, autofocus and all that, and another that is a vintage lens. And these two lenses are really just my favorites. And they're my favorites for a number of reasons: for their compact size, for their image quality, for the images I've created with them that I really love. These two lenses have probably created some of my most favorite images. Now, all that being said, I also love doing macro photography, and I didn't really include the macro lenses because I love all my macro stuff too. But, realistically, I do more other general photography than I do macro, and these lenses really are my favorites. So the first one is a digital lens, and it's one I got when I first bought my EP5, and it is the Panasonic Lumix 20 millimeter f1.7 aspheric lens. Now, the aspheric, if you haven't really looked that up or know what that is, lens elements are generally curved. They have a radius. And an aspheric element actually is more than one radius. So as the curvature of the lens gets near the edge, the radius changes, usually flattens out a little bit. So you get this lens element that's not just round on the surface, but actually has this kind of funny shape that's less curved at the edges and more curved in the middle. And that's done to help reduce aberrations in the lens. And this 20 millimeter f1.7 is just a stellar lens when it comes to image quality. So it's 7 elements in 5 groups. That one of those elements is an aspheric element. It has on micro four thirds, it has a 57-degree field of view. And it'll focus down to about 20 centimeters, which is relatively close. The best image quality, according to some of the tests I've looked at, the best image quality on this lens is between f2 and f4, with f2.8 in the middle being where the peak image quality is, which, on micro four thirds, and I've talked about this in other videos, diffraction limiting on micro four thirds tends to happen a little sooner than it would on a full frame camera. So like on an 8x10 camera, you can stop lenses down to like f64. A lot of those lenses have those kind of apertures, no problem. But on a micro four thirds size sensor, you stop down past about f5.6, maybe f8 on some lenses, and diffraction limiting starts reducing image quality to the extent that things start getting soft. So most of your micro four thirds lenses have their best sharpness fairly close to wide open. Usually by f4, you've gotten all the image quality you're going to get, and starting around f5.6, things start to go downhill. But this lens, like I say, according to tests, between f2.8 or f2 and f4, that's where your best image quality is. And so I use this lens in that range quite a bit. Micro four thirds cameras and this 20 millimeter lens, focal length is short enough. It's got plenty of depth of field, so I don't really need that. If I need to reduce depth of field, I can open it up to f1.7. It's still very sharp, wide open, and I can soften especially if I'm focused kind of close, I can soften my backgrounds up fairly nicely. This lens, like I say, is really high resolution. Some of my favorite digital images have been created with this, and it is a lens that I just really enjoy using. The focal length is at 20 millimeters, is really versatile. It's not, it's not like a 25 millimeter lens. It's not quite normal. It's not like a 35. It's not quite a wide angle. It's kind of in between, and yet it works well kind of at both areas. It's just a really versatile focal length. On a full frame camera, you would see this as a 40 millimeter lens, and there's a few examples in full frame cameras and 35 millimeter film cameras of the 40 millimeter focal length. I know Leica on the Minolta, Leitz Minolta CL and CLE, they made a 40 millimeter, both a Leica, I think Summaron, and as well as a 40 millimeter Rocore, when Minolta and Leica got together to create the CL. There's been some other cameras over time that have had, lenses close to that focal length. But it is just a very versatile focal length. You can use it for so much. It's a lens that's great just to carry around with you everywhere. I really enjoy using it. Now, there is a version 2 of this lens. I have the original version 1, and the version 2, I understand, is pretty much the same optically. I think they've improved the autofocus a bit and made some structural changes or cosmetic changes to it, but still, for the most part, about the same lens. You can buy this lens used on eBay. I saw the version 1 lenses from about $160 to about $200, and the version 2 lenses were about $200 plus, just a little over $200. So not a terribly expensive lens, but if I go to grab a camera to walk around with, it's going to be this EP5 and this 20 millimeter pancake lens from Panasonic. Just a great pairing. Oh, by the way, lens hood I use on it, this is one I actually found on Amazon. It's a vented lens hood like you'd have on a rangefinder camera, which obviously this isn't a rangefinder camera, so I don't need those vents, but it's styled to look like one of the Leica vented lens hoods. It's 46mm filter thread, and I'll put a link in the description down below if you have one of these lenses, or if you get one and you want a very inexpensive but effective hood. This is a really good one. And so if I'm just going to run around with a camera and I want to shoot digital, just, you know, family stuff, or just, you know, going to a museum or going, you know, somewhere, I just want to carry a camera, this is often the combination I will take. The Panasonic Lumix 20mm f1.7 is my favorite digital lens. Now, the favorite vintage lens I use, and I use this both on my digital cameras and some film cameras, is this Leitz 35mm f3.5 Summaron. And I've done videos actually on both these lenses. I'll link them below. This lens is one that kind of got me back into rangefinder cameras. I wasn't shooting rangefinder cameras at all. I kind of stumbled across this lens on Facebook Market. There was a guy that advertised an aircraft gun camera. And this aircraft gun camera, I could tell from the pictures that it had a Leica lens cap on the front of it. And actually, someone had put masking tape over this, and you couldn't really read the lights, but I could kind of see the impression through the tape, and I was pretty sure it was a Leica lens. And he only wanted $60 for this aircraft gun camera, so I met up with him, bought the camera. I did have to take the lens apart and clean some haze out of it, but that wasn't too hard. But this lens is just one of my favorites. Now, I use it, you know, it's a Leica screw mount lens that unscrews from its lens mount with the Leica thread mount. And I use it on an adapter, so I can use it on micro 4/3, and this is one of the inexpensive Photo-C adapters. I'll put a link in the description down below for one of these too. These adapters I use for a number of different Leica thread mount rangefinder lenses that I have for my rangefinder cameras, so I can use them on micro 4/3. But I love this lens on micro 4/3. On a micro 4/3 camera, it becomes a 70mm focal length, which is long enough to work well for portraiture. If you want to just get in a little tighter on a subject, it's going to give you that. It's not super long. You know, it's a 70mm equivalent. It's a very short telephoto, you might say. Now, the Leitz Summaron, if you read about this 3.5 version of the 35mm Summaron, you'll read some people tell you that it's not as sharp at the edges as the f2.8 version or the 35mm f2 Summicron. And, you know, I've shot it quite a bit on film, and I've never been unhappy with the sharpness, even at the edges. You know, if you were shooting landscapes or something where the edges were critical, then, or maybe, I don't know, maybe architecture or some other things, if you really need that edge sharpness, yeah, you might want a different lens. But for my use on micro 4/3, the cool thing is the parts of the image that potentially could be less sharp are cropped out on a micro 4/3 camera. So you know, that's one of the cool things about using vintage lenses on micro 4/3 is that you lose the worst part of the image area because you're cropping to the center of it, and so you get the best of the image quality. And the images that I've taken with this, well, mostly with this EP5, but some with the EM5 Mark II and this lens are just wonderful. I love this lens in terms of its image quality. Now, this lens was made from between 1946 and 1960. They made about 80,000 of these, so they're not uncommon. They're relatively easy to find. If you look on eBay, they're not that cheap, unfortunately. I was looking this morning, and these lenses go on the low side about $360, on the high side over $800, which seems a little crazy. But so I was really blessed to have found this for $60. And it is, not just because of that, but it is one of my favorites. It's 6 elements and 4 groups. The front, this doesn't have inside filter threads. It's actually smooth. So you have to use a lens hood or filters that slip over the outside of it. Now I have this lens hood I'll put a link in the description down below if you get one of these. This also fits the 50mm f3.5 Leitz Elmar. But they make a little, it's called an A36, but they make a little clamp on hood. I also have a Kodak 36mm push-on filter adapter for Series 6 filters. Series 6 filters are vintage filters, basically, that they made these filters that had no threads on them. They're just smooth, and you put an adapter on the lens, and the filter fit in the adapter, had a retaining ring that held the filter in. And they made those push-on adapters for all different kinds and diameters of lenses, so you could push on a filter. And I have yellow and red filters and a polarizer that'll fit on this. So it's an A36 or 36mm outside push-on filter. So the image quality on this thing is just phenomenal. It has some of the most beautiful colors. To my eye, it is super sharp, certainly in the center, and on micro four thirds all the way out to the edges. Rich, vibrant colors. I just really love the way that this lens renders images. They're just really beautiful. And like I say, it has that reputation of, like I say, compared to other Leica 35mm lenses of not being as good. Kind of the same reputation the Olympus 17mm f2.8 has compared to the f1.8. You know, people say it's soft at the edges, and I have that lens too, and I've taken a lot of images with it, and I've never been unhappy with any of those either. So I think sometimes there's maybe a disconnect between, you know, optical resolution testing and that sort of thing and real world picture taking. And again, like I've said before, it's not sharpness that makes an image. There's a lot of other things that determine, you know, what makes a good image. So anyway, this lens is just one of my favorites. It's nice and compact. I mean, it's really a tiny lens. It's not super fast at f3.5, but for what I do with this, it really just works great. If I needed a lens that was faster to blur my backgrounds and stuff, I do have a TT Artisan 35mm f1.4 that maybe works a bit better for that. That lens works really great too, but there's something about this lens that the images from it just really, I love them. It's just hard to describe without actually just looking at them and you know, having used this. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. And I love using it on the film cameras too. I'm using Canon rangefinder film cameras these days, and I've got several actually. I've but a couple of Canon 7s and two of these L2s and a 2S2. I kind of went crazy on Canon rangefinder cameras. I'm going to do a video about these pretty soon. But this actually has a viewfinder, a 35mm. It's switchable between 50 and 35mm in the viewfinder. So I can use the 35 on this without some kind of separate accessory viewfinder. And this is my mirrorless full frame camera. And these Canon rangefinder cameras are really nice. But this 35mm f3.5 Summaron, it's just a favorite vintage lens. Whether I'm using it on film or on digital, it's just a great lens. So anyway, that's the two lenses. I've got many more lenses left yet to look at and review, and so maybe something else will come along that I'll like as much. I know I've got some Zeiss sonars that I am going to be doing some work with to see how they stack up, and you know, there's other Japanese lenses and stuff, but right now these are two of my favorites. And of all the pictures I've taken, I think some of my favorites come from these two. So anyway, if you have any thoughts or comments about your favorite lenses and what you like to use and carry, I'd love to hear about it. I know vintage lens-wise, a lot of people use vintage lenses because they're affordable, and so not a huge number of people are going out and buying Leica lenses to use on their digital cameras. I mean, there's some people that do, but Leica lenses are expensive. I use a number of Canon rangefinder lenses, which are also excellent lenses. They're really good. I'm going to be doing some reviews on some of those. But I don't know, there's something about, I used to be a big Leica shooter, Leica rangefinder shooter, had a bunch of their stuff. And there's something about these Leica lenses that, I don't know, the image quality is just really amazing. And kind of hard to describe until you use one. You know, people talk about the Leica look. I'm not sure if you could necessarily look at an image and say it came from a Leica. There's times I thought maybe so, but anyway, Leica lenses are awesome. Anyway, I appreciate you joining me. Please, like I said, leave me a comment if you would. And as always, thanks for watching.